Okay. I don't know, but we might have made it to the end of this guy. Oh no. Oh man, it scrolled the whole way. Somehow it bumped the whole way back up to um my the sidebar that tells me what video on one video 126, and we are down way further. Um, no, nope, we won't finish this guy today, but we'll get damn close. This this close. All right. Playback speed is good. Let's go.
The same amount of success in periodic testing that your examiners do? Is that a common result, that everybody passes every test?
I don't.
If he knows.
Overruled.
No, I don't know. I don't know what failure rate or success rate these other laboratories have with regards to hairs.
Have you read any studies where it was attempted to be shown that examiners could consistently, independently, come up with similar results?
I don't know if I quite follow that. Maybe you
All
could
right, let me
clarify that.
rephrase.
Yeah.
Everything that is truly a science involves some kind of repeatable phenomenon, correct?
Josh started with
That's
food.
correct.
So that if you compare two hairs and say they could have come from the same source, you would expect other examiners to look at the same two hairs without being privy to your opinion and come up with the same result, if they were competent, correct?
That's the idea, right? That's you'd like to see that happen.
All right. Now, my question is, do you know of any studies conducted by responsible laboratories and professionals where that idea has been tested?
Well, the only one I can think of would be the Gaudet study, and there were some independent comparisons done there. I can't recall any others specifically.
Did you read in 1989 in the Journal of Forensic Sciences that you review each month when it relates to your profession, the Wickheiser and Hepworth study?
Names vaguely ring a bell, but I don't recall the study.
Any idea what it was about?
No, I don't recall.
Do you recall a study where two examiners independently examined over 900 hairs?
He said
No, I
no,
don't.
Is
sir.
it fair to say that if in 1989 that study was published,
Yep. No, Judge.
is
What?
it fair to say that in 1989 you were reading the articles about hair and fiber in the Journal of Forensic Sciences?
I've been reading since 1977. Yes.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Bailey, we're going to need to take a break at this point.
I started reading in
All right, ladies
1977
and gentlemen, please remember
too.
all
By
my
the way,
admonitions to you. We'll take one of our mid-afternoon breaks, and remember all my
little bit
admonitions to you.
before
See you back
then.
here in about 15 minutes. All right, Mr. Diedrich, you have to reflect that we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Mr. Diedrich, would you resume the witness stand, please? And Mr. Bailey, you may continue with your cross-examination.
no, don't let him
By the way,
continue.
Mr. Diedrich, does any governmental authority, to your knowledge, license examiners of hair and fiber?
I don't believe so.
You don't hold any license in that regard, do you?
I've never heard of that, no.
Okay. During the recess, toward the end, admittedly, did I show you a copy of an article from the Journal of Forensic Sciences?
You did, yes.
Is that one that you've seen before?
I have seen that, yes.
And that, you mentioned a fellow named Gaudet, I believe, with the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Right.
Is that, by the way, the Canadian organization that would be the nearest counterpart to the FBI, would you say?
Yes, I would.
The Federal Police of Canada.
That's correct.
And are they generally reputed to have pretty responsible forensic scientists?
I've only spoken with Mr. Gaudet, and he has done some work with hairs.
But you have read about some of the studies that they've done in an effort to demonstrate the repeatability of one examiner agreeing with another on.
Right. I've read his papers, and I've read papers by Barnett and others refuting what he did.
Well, in this specialty, like any other, the experts are frequently in disagreement with one another, aren't they?
Experts
Siobhan,
will
my
disagree,
love,
yes.
how are
Well, that
you?
doesn't often happen when it comes to
Hi,
fingerprints, does it?
Richard.
If he knows.
Sustain.
Is it not true that in the areas we mentioned earlier where identification is possible, positive identification, that experts seldom disagree on a frequent basis? In your experience?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of experience with their distinctive areas. That is, one would expect that if it's a science that is recognized as a means of positive identification, such as comparing striations on bullets or ridges of fingerprints, one would expect them to agree a great deal.
Now,
Oof, don't
when
that
you were
sound
taught
good,
at
Siobhan?
the FBI Academy initially in your class in hair and fibers, were you taught to use a checklist of criteria?
Well, it was a method that was shown to us, and it's something that I used initially.
You used it for a number of years, didn't you?
I did for a while there, and then I decided that it was not really useful.
Can you tell me anything about the checklist you used when you were a neophyte in the specialty?
The checklist is simply a number of microscopic characteristics that might be present in the cuticle, the cortex, and the medulla, and other characteristics about the hair, such as if it's curly or wavy or straight, cross-section, color, racial characteristics. These are just a number of points to remind the new examiner to look at and to check on, just to make sure that you're looking at all the characteristics you should be looking at. And it's an excellent tool, a starting tool for new examiners.
Well, at what point do examiners normally abandon the use of the checklist, in your experience?
Well, we've had examiners that used it all the way through.
That is a somewhat more formal and regulated approach to the comparison process, is it not?
Well, it's again, it's a way to document what you're seeing, and if you feel like that is necessary, then you would do it.
But the position you frequently take, Mr. Diedrich, in these cases is that the breadth of your experience is such that you no longer need the guidance of a checklist. Is that not so?
Well, I don't need it written down on paper. The checklist is pretty much in my head as to what I should look at and pay attention to. And I don't compare checklists. I don't compare notes. I don't compare photographs. I just compare hairs that I actually see in the same field of view.
Are you familiar with the checklist, which
Get
was
the hell
heard
outta here.
as
When did you
proper
get to
in the
Australia?
study that we've just discussed by the
How did you
RCMP?
get to Australia?
In the Wickheiser study,
Yeah.
it was a computer data type checklist that they used.
That's not what I'm referring to. Did you see published in the study a checklist which the authors considered to be essential?
Well, I don't recall all of the points in that particular checklist, but I know different studies that have been done have utilized checklists and also computer cards.
Is it not true that some of your colleagues in the profession view the use of these kinds of checklists as mandatory to a valid hair comparison?
Well, some laboratories may require a checklist.
Well, do you consider the RCMP to be a responsible group? Law enforcement?
I believe they are.
Put that up, Mr. Harris, please. Can you bring that down? First, I want to show you the top segment of the table published in that study and ask you whether or not you recognize these as valid characteristics to be looked at when studying hair. In other words, are these some of the things that you look at in an informal way?
Yes, the medullary index is not something that is measured. And again, I believe that this classification system could be incorporated, and maybe the intent is to incorporate it into some type of computerized searching method.
All right. Your Honor, for the record, may this be designated offense 1218?
1218. Mrs. Robertson says 1220.
You see where each of the differing characteristics in each category is given a numerical value or an assigned number in those 7 categories.
Right, I see that, yes.
Okay. Would you agree that unless the numbers match in each of the 7 categories between a known and a questioned hair, that the comparison must be discarded?
I don't believe so.
You
No.
don't?
No, I don't compare or reach conclusion based upon a checklist or...
Okay. Would you illuminate the lower part of the chart? Would you look at what is described as secondary characteristics and tell us whether or not these are things that you look at informally when you do your comparisons?
That's correct. That's pretty much...
Do you see that these different kinds of characteristics within a category are also given numbers?
I do, yes.
Do you understand that one of the authors of the article to which we are referring is the head of the hair and fiber section of the RCMP,
I didn't know that, no.
and that the other one is an examiner like you in the RCMP? Now,
Overruled. Proceed.
do you know that in the study, which is described in this article, that it was suggested that it was mandatory in order to reach a comparison for all of the first 7 groups to match by number, and that there was a second requirement for the secondary group that we are looking at now.
I don't buy that. I mean, I wouldn't agree with that.
And that is that if you vary by more than 1 number in the secondary category, that too would defeat the comparison. Do you agree with that?
No, no.
Do you even look at these things, Mr. Deaton?
Oh, you look at them and you compare them, yes.
Do you know the results of the 2 examiners used in this study who compared 930 hairs?
I didn't have really a time to really digest just the article.
Would it surprise you that one
That he
could
said
compare only
that
7 pairs and
6
the other
times
6?
now, sir.
Sustained.
Did you not read this journal article at some point?
I recall reading it. I don't recall. Wasn't able to finish it completely and properly digest it and understand
I mean when
it.
it was published.
Well, I can't remember. I do remember reading it, but I don't recall the contents entirely.
Well, assuming that my suggestion as to what the authors insist are
Yeah.
proper criteria is true, that is, that's what the article says. If you had read something,
These at names are killing everybody. That's why everybody's calling you Jillian. It's Siobhan, guys. Guys, it's Siobhan.
with which you disagreed so sharply, wouldn't you remember it?
Well, I disagree with the methodology of employing a numerical value to characteristics such as this methodology is here. We attempted to do the same thing back when the International Hair Symposium was set up in 1985. And the effort was to
Bobby!
see if all examiners would characterize a particular...
Bobby, there's an International Hair Symposium for you. I'll go with you. Me and you can go. Hold on. Guys, let's see if there's one coming up. Oh my gosh. International Hair Symposium. A global gathering for us, Bobby. Hold on, let's see if we can go. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, wait, entry fee. Check official website. That means I can't go. I don't know where it is because I got another pop-up. I don't know. Now I got 2 pop-ups. Now I probably got a bad virus from checking out the International Hair Symposium. Stop. It's in Germany, Bobby. Bobby, you want to go to Germany with me in June of 2025? Day late and $1 short, guys. We missed the whole hair symposium.
Their hair exactly the same, and there are some differences where some person might say the pigment granules were medium, one might say fine or fine to medium. So assigning a particular numerical value to the characteristics became a little arbitrary and difficult, at least to computerize, to place a value on an association. But that doesn't mean that 2 examiners who are looking at the same hair would not associate that question hair with the same individual. That doesn't mean that at all. It just means that they based on their experience and what they observe, they see certain characteristics and they make a note of it. And that's one of the difficulties with using this particular methodology, because there may be some variation in the range of experience of the examiners.
And there are advantages to not using this methodology, are there not?
Well, I don't see necessarily an advantage to using it. The only advantage that you may get out of this is that you make sure you look at certain characteristics. But to assign a value so that you could determine if it's a good match or a good association, I don't think that that's something that should be done.
When it comes to the sciences of identification that we discussed, are there not certain minimum requirements before an identification can be asserted within each of the professions, if you know?
And again, are you incorporating all the different areas of forensics, such as
What does
fingerprints?
the FBI, excuse me,
I'm sorry. Go
what
ahead.
does the FBI require for fingerprints, minimum points of ID, if you know?
I've spoken with different examiners and gotten different responses on that, so I'm not sure. You might have a person that has 20 years of experience and they may not need 7 points of comparison or 6, whereas a person just starting out, they may require more. I don't know if they have a set number. They may.
If they do, and an examiner came to the stand with less than the set number, that would be a basis for cross-examination, would not meeting a standard.
Yeah, I think if there was a standard set by the group then, and that was below the standard, perhaps it would be subject to some rigorous cross-examination, yes.
Is it not true that departments other than your own advocate the use of lists, checklists of criteria?
They do. I've seen it.
For instance, I think you told me that you have visited the Connecticut State Police.
Well, I haven't visited them. I've worked some cases that they've sent down to me to look at.
Do you read any of their publications on forensic investigation?
I've never seen that, no.
Are you done with this?
I'm done with that exhibit.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to show you a checklist from this manual and ask you if you agree with its use. Sure.
I'm on it, Bobby. I'm on it. I'll look for 2025
I think he
first.
indicated he hadn't seen it. Mr. Bailey.
Italy,
Did you put that
Dubai, San Antonio, Chicago,
I think we have a foundational.
IBS. There's an IBS convention,
I believe you
International
testified that it is your
Beauty
understanding that other
Show.
forensic laboratories do advocate the use of formal checklists in evaluating hair.
Right, I am aware that other labs will use checklists.
And I just showed you one of those from the Wickenheiser study from the Canadians, and I'd like to show you one used by the Connecticut State Police.
May I ask the witness to be shown before it's put on the screen now?
Yes. We have a foundational problem here, Counsel. Take it down.
Okay, that one was in September. It's not looking good.
You may.
Showing you a book called Physical Evidence, published by Dr. Henry Lee and
August,
others.
missed that.
under the
September, missed that. September,
Simpson
September.
organization. I guess
October,
that's
but
good.
we missed
Refer to
it.
page 143 and see if you
October 18th.
recognize that as a checklist used by some examiners.
Okay. All right, found one.
That looks like a checklist.
Okay. Are you familiar with all of them?
Oh, shut up. In New York, which I can just drive to or hop on Amtrak, not a big deal. Lux Pack, New York, has a show May 6th through 7th. So we would have to stay overnight. We should share a hotel room to save money. Unless we want to go to Orlando in May. Or we could go to Digestive Disease Week, Bobby. It's 3 days long. Digestive Disease Week in Chicago, May 2nd through May 5th of 2026. There's over 13,000 professionals, 400 lectures, and 4,300 scientific presentations on digestive diseases. I like this one better than ToupeeCon. If I was going to go to a convention, it would be DEF CON, which is a hacking convention for hackers. I think it's every year in August. That's where I would go first. And then Kazakon would be my second. Kazakon is anime. And I would dress up. I would go all out. I would go all out. But I'm not going to either of those.
Criteria that you just saw on the list.
I don't think I gave it that much time and attention that all of the things went into my brain at
Would
once,
you be
but
willing to go through it with me and see which ones you use?
I would be glad to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we put it up, Mike.
Yeah, it's for the foundation.
Sidebar with court report, please. All right, Mr. Diedrich, if you would just take a moment and review the categories that are listed on table 14 there. And let us know if, after you've reviewed it, and if those terminologies or characteristics are familiar to you.
Okay, with regards to scale pattern,
Before we start, may we put it up so people can see what you're talking
oh,
about?
yeah, let's do that.
All right, you're familiar with the terminology there, Mr. Diedrich?
I've seen all those words before, yes.
Thank you.
Defense 1221, Your Honor.
So marked.
Okay, you have the book in front of you. You can also see on your screen that we have faithfully reproduced it. You agree with that?
It looks the same to me, yes.
Okay. Now, there are some words on there which are just plain English words, and some which may be peculiar to what you do. Would you, for instance, explain to the jury what the word imbricate means?
Well, an imbricate is the common scale pattern that's found in human hairs.
Guess what, guys? When assholes at Wawa put coffee cups in these plastic cups, the only way to get them out is by grabbing the lid of the cup to pull it out. That's the only way you can get it out. Oh my God. Guess what, guys? If the lid isn't on securely, guess what happens, guys? It's like they set me up for failure on purpose, knowing that I would have to drive my daughter to work in coffee pants that I spent way too much money on to begin with to be spilling any of it.
It's very irregular. It doesn't have any particular regular shape to it, whereas coronal scales, they're really only found in infants, very young
No,
infants.
don't
just
fly
newborns.
away so quickly
and as to
again.
adults, you don't see coronal
You have to
scales
stay
hardly at all,
home
except
for a
in very
little
fine
bit.
hairs, and those are not even considered for comparison. Spinous scales are not commonly associated to human hairs.
You mean fibrous?
No, spinous scale patterns with human hairs.
Where-
Generally,
Are you reading from item 1?
item number, scale pattern, that's number, right, that's,
Well, there seems to be a terminology difference between what you have up there and what we have as table 14.
yeah, there's a little difference.
Okay. All
I-
right. Well, go ahead and comment on spinous. That's not common to humans, is it?
No, spinous scales are commonly found in mink hairs, they're found in dog hairs, and some other animal hairs, but they're not common for humans.
The definition of the word imbricate, Mr. Diedrich, means laying one over the other like the leaves of an artichoke, right?
Right, that's right. Or, they lay like the shingles on a roof, but they're very irregular. Instead of smooth, they're choppy looking, and they're not very uniform.
Okay, now, within the category of imbricate, which applies to all human hairs, adult human hairs, do you find differences that help you in your comparison studies?
Generally, imbricate is a term that's used just in general for human hair scale characteristics.
The point is, within that term, which encompasses a description of all adult human hairs, there are no further divisions recognized in your profession, are there? Any other terms?
I wouldn't recognize necessarily, although there probably have been some people over the years that have tried to break that down too, but I think imbricate is just one large group.
Dr. Kirk tried to do that in his study, and it didn't work, right?
Well, again, Hausman did it, and a few others did it as well, trying to break
Many
down
humans
scale
are
patterns
animals.
to
Many.
I don't know how many different groups. But with humans, we generally refer to the scale pattern on humans as imbricate.
Right. Okay. So that is not basically,
So
except
you're an
between humans
imbricate.
and animals or humans and infants, it is not a basis of differentiation.
No.
Everybody's imbricate, right?
Pretty much so, yes.
But in the next category, the medulla, is that the same as in your book, number 2?
It's the same, yes.
That is a very useful basis, much of the time, in differentiation, is it not?
It can be, yes.
One of the first things you look for when you get to your microscope, the existence or absence and type or nature of the medulla.
You do see that. It's readily apparent.
And that is the dark line in the center of the cortex that you pointed out to us in a number of the exploded views that you showed on your cards. True?
Right, that's correct.
And do you, when you examine hairs, look to categorize the medulla as is done on line 2? Or do you have other and further things that you look for to differentiate?
Sometimes I'll use the term trace as opposed to fragmented.
All right. And tell the jury what you mean when you say there is a trace of a medulla.
Well, the tissue that's found in the center, it's a little bit different than the rest of the hair. It's made up of a little different type of keratin, which is the protein that makes up hair. Maybe in just small dots, or just real short lengths, and it could be black, which has air surrounding it, or it might be clear. So you could have a trace clear, trace dark, or you could call it fragmented. It just depends on what you like.
Okay. But it's indicated there that in some hairs there is no medulla. It's
Right,
absent.
and there's some argument on that too.
All right. Well, have you seen hairs where you weren't able to locate any medulla?
Well, I have.
Okay.
Yep.
You mean some people disagree with you that it can be absent?
Some people say that it's there, but you just don't see it. Well, if I don't see it, then it's not there.
All right. Now, the medulla pattern, as distinguished from the medulla itself, could you look at those terms and tell me whether or not you recognize those as valid bases of definition?
Well, I don't, let me check to see if the two lists are the same. Okay, I don't. Some of these terms are not used for human hairs. Uniserial, multiserial, vacuolated, and lattice, they are not common terms used for human hairs. Those are common terms used for animal hairs. Uniserial and multiserial are common in the rabbit group. Vacuolated hairs may be found in the rodents as well as other animals. Lattice medullas are found in the deer family. Amorphous, that's common for humans. Most of human hairs are amorphous, either amorphous dark, amorphous clear, or they may be cellular. And it apparently doesn't have cellular there. And I've even found one that I call a wafer, which is unusual.
Okay. So these would be divisions, if they appeared on this list, within amorphous, the only category applied to human hairs that you see.
Well, amorphous and cellular or bulbous, those are the two major categories.
For the benefit of the uninitiated, would you define the word vacuolated?
Well, vacuolated, again, is just well, amorphous is no form. It has no particular form. Vacuolated, it looks like large vacuoles or large chambers that you see in the center of the hair.
Air pockets?
It could be, yes. Air pocket's a good example of that. With uniserial and multiserial, uniserial means just like a bead, a long string of clear or dark medullary material. And in rabbits have very fine hairs which have uniserial medullas. And in the larger hairs, they're called multiserial. It looks like corn. You had a piece of corn cob or something. All the medulla looks like that. It looks like kernels of corn.
Mr. Dietrich, in your direct testimony, you made reference to diameter as having some importance in several respects.
Right. It can have it can play a role in the comparison.
All right. Well, first of all, the amount of diameter may be helpful in determining race, correct?
Yes.
The thicker hairs being Asian, generally speaking.
Generally speaking, that's right.
Okay. The constancy of the diameter from the proximal end or root to the distal end or tip can be significant in making comparisons. Is that true?
It can be, yes.
And is that something that you would note when you were examining hairs under the comparison microscope?
I would make a note of that as to how variable the diameter is along the length.
Okay. The length of the hair, what significance might that have?
Well, the length of the hair plays a role in the comparison. You don't always have the same length in the question hair as the known hairs, but it's something you must consider.
Is there a minimum length with which you need to work before you can call a comparison as similar?
I don't believe there's a set length. It depends on the characteristics of the hair.
What's the smallest fragment that you've worked with in obtaining what you viewed as a positive result?
I believe I've gone down to maybe 1/8 of an inch or so.
1/8 of an inch?
About 1/8 of an inch.
Okay. Incidentally, on Friday, you did a calculation for us and said that if you magnified a 12-inch hair from Nicole Brown Simpson 250 times, you would have a picture 25 feet long. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah.
Would you like
I
to
believe.
recalculate it?
Well, I'm not a mathematician. What does it come out to be?
Well, 10 times 250, be 250 feet long, wouldn't it, if you start with the 12-inch piece?
Okay, well, that sounds okay. It's pretty big, I know.
Okay. In any event, the color of the hair you always take into account, I take it. And you talked about that on your direct examination.
Right, that's correct.
And you always, as well, take into account what is called the reflectivity. First of all, do you use that term, reflectivity, for that category?
No.
Well, do you distinguish between opaque, translucent, transparent, and clear hairs?
No, if it's opaque, it's one thing, but the other qualities are not commonly referred to in the descriptive notes.
All right. So apparently, some examiners feel there is a distinction between the latter three, and you do not. Is that a fair statement?
That's not something we've ever taught, nor have I've even heard.
At the FBI Academy.
Well, I talked to a lot of hair examiners around the country, but I've never seen those.
Okay. This is a first for you, coming out of the Connecticut State Police?
Well, if that's where it came from, it's a first to me, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, you said you knew who Henry Lee was, and you do
Yeah,
know he has
I
the
think,
laboratory.
yeah, I think we probably all heard about Henry Lee.
Okay. As to the tip, do you agree with those categories published there as differentiated?
That looks fine.
Okay. And what about the root? Are those different categories that you inspect in trying to identify or distinguish unlike hairs?
I don't know what a normal root is, the word normal. Stretched, I might refer to hair that's been forcibly removed, and I may indicate that it either has tissue or no tissue. If it's absent, I'll make a note of that. Follicular, that may be referring to there's tissue present. Bulbous and germ, I have an idea where he's going with that, but I may make a special note of it if there's some characteristics that, in my experience, are unique as to the root.
Does it not appear that absent is the contrary of the other five categories?
Well, yeah, it's right. If it's not there, the other five don't apply.
Okay. As to the cross-section, I believe you told us that race can be indicated by a cross-section of hair.
Right. It's one of the characteristics that can be applied to racial determination.
Okay. And the pigment. I think you talked about a number of things referencing pigment. First of all, if the pigment is absent, what color is the hair?
Well, it would be gray, white.
That is a transition you have accomplished in the past few years.
Yeah, I might have. I have a few pigment granules left in there, believe it or not, but yeah, most of them are turning that way.
A product, no doubt, of cross-examination.
Yeah, well, I think it started when I got this case, right?
What is granular pigment? Have you ever noticed pigment that you would call granular?
I have, yes. Sometimes in hairs, when you're looking at them microscopically, it looks like there's sand grains in it. They're just very present, very obvious. They're not grouped in any particular clump or chain or patch, but they just look sandy. That's what I would call granular.
Okay. And chain, clump, dense, and opaque are also terms that you would use in describing different kinds of hair?
I might, yes.
Have you in the past?
I do comment on pigment density,
Okay.
yes, whether it's clumping or streaking. Chaining, I generally refer to streaking in that category as opposed to chaining, although some
Essentially mean the same, don't they?
pretty much the same.
Right. Okay. Cortical fusi is something that you mentioned you look for. My question is, do you agree with the differentiation set forth there, 6 categories, as being distinct from one another?
Okay, you're referring to the four areas, right? The
I'm
absent.
sorry, no, I'm one line above you, both beginning with absent. The 4 categories.
4 categories. Absent, few, bunched. Yes, generally I refer to the size, shape, and distribution of them.
So these are things that you would note at the comparison microscope, both as to the K and the Q hair that you're looking at.
I would do that, yes.
Okay. Now, distinguish, if you will, the cortical pigment from the pigment number 12.
I'm sorry, the cortical pigment as opposed to pigment.
15 as opposed to 12. What are the differences in the 2 kinds of pigment? The cortex is, of course, the center body of the hair, is it not? The main body.
Oh, okay. Well, pretty much all the pigments located in the cortex. I think they're referring to here on pigment distribution, which is centrally located, which you will find in red-haired individuals, peripherally located, which is located out more towards the cuticle, to one side, which we've already discussed, and the pigment is found more down towards the root of the hair, and I don't know if I see that so much. Most of the time what you see is the pigment might be out towards the tip because the hair is starting to gray a little bit, and it starts graying from the bottom up, so I don't know about that.
Cosmetic treatment, you see a lot, don't you?
Bottom up?
No, not really. I mean, you see it, because we see a lot of hairs, but that's significant when you see cosmetic treatment.
Well, there was some in this case, wasn't
There was.
there? You remember
yes.
which hairs
That's
had
what
been
I say to
cosmetically
my
treated?
beer.
Yes, I do.
And whose were those?
Nicole Brown's were treated. There were some question hairs that were treated.
Okay, were those question hairs, the hairs in the cap that you deemed to be not similar to those of Mr. Simpson?
Right, and also there was one that on Q15, which was from the cap, that was appeared to be dissimilar to any of the knowns. Right.
Can you tell the jury what you noted about those 6 hairs, dissimilar to Mr. Simpson's hair, that caused you to use the word treated in describing them?
Well, not all of the 6 were treated. There were at least 3 maybe 4 hair fragments that appeared reddish brown, and they appear to be treated. Really not the greatest hairs to compare. The fact that they were treated led me to believe that they couldn't have originated from that individual.
Now, you examined quite a number of K hairs that were known to be pulled from Mr. Simpson, right?
I did, yes.
Did most of those have some part of the follicle or tissue with them? The ones that were forcibly removed rather than being combed?
Right, I would think most of them had a root in some form.
Did you get any combed hairs taken from Mr. Simpson?
I did.
And what about the 2 victims? Did you have any combed hairs from them?
No.
All right. Did you find any evidence of treatment on any of the K7 hairs that came from Mr. Simpson's head?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you make any inquiry directly or through the investigators here in Los Angeles as to the history of Mr. Simpson's care of his hair, through his barber or whomever, to see whether any treatment had ever been applied?
I don't believe I ever asked that.
You have no information in that respect?
No, I have no way of knowing that.
Okay. Now, damaged hair. Cut, crunched, broken, and burned. I think 3 of those terms are pretty obvious. Tell us what is meant in your specialty by crunched.
Well, that would be an indication of where the hair may have had made impact with a solid object. Could be a hammer, could be a mallet, it could be an axe, it could be a window, like a windshield. But that may indicate that the hair has been crushed in some form. It's difficult. Actually, it's pretty difficult to crush a hair. So when you see a crushed hair, there's been some pretty heavy hitting on it.
Well, you've testified in the past that you've seen hairs that were crushed by a blunt instrument.
I have.
Striking it, right?
I have.
And do you not suspect that if I were mean enough to take a hammer, hit Miss Clark on the head hard enough to knock her out, that you'd find a couple of crushed hairs?
Well, I think the chances would be improved greatly.
Did anybody ever submit to you any hairs from Nicole Brown Simpson for your examination as to whether or not they had been crushed?
I didn't observe that at all.
Were any submitted to you that were associated in their submission with some kind of alleged blow to the head?
I don't believe any of the hairs that I found, either questioned or known, exhibited that crushed characteristic.
Has there been explained to you in the preparation for your testimony the theory advanced in this court as to how Miss Simpson was felled and then slain?
I've heard a few different ideas, and that perhaps is one of them.
You've heard the theory of the medical examiner, have you?
Well, yes, indirectly. I did hear that she may have been hit on the head.
Okay. When was the first time you ever heard that theory, Mr. Dietrich?
It may have been during the testimony during the case. Someone may have mentioned it, or I had overheard it.
Nobody ever mentioned it to you when you were working on the hairs, did they?
No, I try to stay away from theories when you're working the hairs up.
Well, Miss Brockbank came out to see you with a bunch of exhibits in August. Did she tell you anything about the victim having been hit on the head?
No.
Did anyone else tell you before you heard it on the news?
I don't believe so. No, I don't recall anybody saying that to me, but it really didn't matter to me. I mean, I didn't see any evidence of that, and so I couldn't support it one way or another.
Well, no hairs were submitted to you allegedly from a specific spot on the top of her head accompanying an injury, were they?
No, I don't even know if the hairs came from an injured area.
Okay. We can skip, I think, race, since you've covered that, except I would like to ask you about a mixed. Yeah, what do you mean by mixed? A mixture of one of the 2 or more of the first 3?
Okay, yes, right. You may find that hairs exhibit characteristics that are shared by the models. All right, if the person exhibits a very large diameter hair, it has a reddish coloration, yet it has a lot of buckling and perhaps clumping of the pigment, that might tend to indicate it might be an Asian black mix. Sometimes you find that the hairs will exhibit microscopic characteristics that share a couple of racial groups. And that you might say that those were exhibit mixed racial characteristics.
Is that something you look for when you're making your examination?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I believe you have said that this is still the current booklet, I assume passed out to students of hair and fiber when you teach.
We still hand that out, yes.
Okay. And have you reviewed it recently?
Well, I don't know how long ago it was, but I have one in my office.
Do you teach from it?
Not really. Not really. It's mainly an introductory type manual for beginners, and it's they find it useful because it has some pictures in it. But we just try to use it as a supplement to our normal teaching course.
All right, well, we'll get to pictures in a little while, but is it not a fact that when young examiners come out of the academy and are assigned to your section for the year of training that you describe in your direct examination, that they are generally encouraged to use a checklist in examining hairs? such as is contained in the teachings of this book?
I normally recommend for all new people, when they're just starting to learn it, and I start this day one, not after the year, that it might be helpful if they get a checklist so that they can make sure they're touching base with the characteristics that are important and that you're going to evaluate when you're comparing hairs. After the year, I don't care if they use the checklist. If they want to, fine. If they don't, that's their business.
All right. Would you just take a quick look at the list that is derived from this booklet over several pages and see whether or not it's something that you teach at the end? These appear to be a number of the same terms that we looked at on the list published in the manual by the Connecticut State Police. Your Honor. Court, please.
1222.
Is that the whole thing?
Manual review, this is nothing. Exactly.
Now coffee was leaking out of the cup that spilled all over me. Wawa hates me. I always forget her. No, just kidding. Speaking of,
Give that to Mrs. Robertson.
I gotta go.
Make a copy so the witness wouldn't have to try to read it.
behave, be good. I'll be back as
Smart
soon as I
working,
can.
mean, it's not the easiest thing to read all the time. Yes, Mrs. Robertson. One of our former jurors who had been dismissed for misconduct for communicating and writing notes to other jurors had indeed communicated with one of the sitting jurors. The court had to conduct an inquiry as to whether or not such communications were received and what the content was, and the court conducted an individual interview of each one of our jurors, and we will proceed. Anything else, counsel?
Yes, sir. If you'd like to put something on the record, we might perhaps the clerk may want to put the
What's the topic, counsel?
with regard to the jury request.
A request?
Request, yes.
All right. Madam Porter? Yes. All right, counsel, anything else? Ms. Clark, Mr. Carpenter, have you all had the opportunity to consult regarding stipulations regarding the people's final witness?
I have a proposed copy with me, and I'd like to give it to Mr. Clark and let him look at that.
All right, let's have the jurors, please. Deputy McNair. All right, good morning again, Mr. Diedrich.
Good morning.
Sir, you were reminded that you were still under oath, and Mr. Bailey, you may continue with your cross-examination.
I have a learned treatise here, which I'm handing Ms. Clark. May I hand the witness a copy on that?
Yes. And what is this, Mr. Bailey?
It is an article from the Journal of Forensic Sciences, if it pleases the court, may it be marked defense next in order, published in '89 by certain people dealing with a topic raised by the witness, I believe, in his direct, called thin layer chromatography.
1223.
Both people and the witness need an opportunity to read this.
I intended to let them have that. I'm not going into it right now. That's why I gave it to them now.
All right, proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Diedrich, since we parted company yesterday, has a revised typed edition of the notes that we've been working with, your notes, been returned to you with some corrections made?
They have, yes, sir.
Have you reviewed that?
Well, I haven't had a chance to look through it thoroughly, but it looks pretty much in order.
Okay. In any event, can you tell us a little bit about the methodology that you used in keeping notes in your cases? Do you have any set procedure, things that you regularly do when it comes to creating these notes?
Well, the first set of notes generally refers to the examination of the original item, how it was received, the condition of the item, perhaps any markings that may be on the container, if it was sealed, if it was opened or damaged. From this, the item is then opened, and notes are taken of the condition of the inside contents. Again, any markings, the container, the type of container, and so forth. Once the material has been removed from an item, in this particular case, most of the material was debris packets. So once that material has been mounted on a glass microscope slide, the analysis and the notes essentially are describing the question material first, and then taking a look at the known characteristics, the known hair samples or the known fiber samples, and then doing a comparison. The notes regarding hairs would generally be short notes as to type, race, body area, whether they're suitable for comparison, maybe the approximate length and color. With fibers, first off, with most fiber examinations, the fibers are not explained routinely, simply because there's no way to know what significance a number of fibers may have that's found on a particular item. You look at the fibers and form some mental notes, and then later compare those with the actual fabrics in question, maybe that are worn by the suspect in a case or by the victim. And the comparisons are then made, and the tests are conducted, and the notes are taken based on the tests.
Okay. Are there any dates on any of the notes that you produced in this case as indicating when you performed certain tasks or made certain observations?
No, they are not.
When you got your biology degree at Indiana, did you take a course in chemistry?
I did, yes.
Was the importance of sequencing observations stressed in your chemistry course?
Well, I'm sure it was. That's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. You know, by the way, most lawyers are pre-med students that couldn't pass chemistry, don't you?
Perhaps for hair examiners, too.
In any event, it is not your practice, I take it, to make any dates on the notes.
It's not routine, no, to make date notations.
Is it your practice to keep a sequence within the notes that accurately reflects the sequence in which you performed your duties?
Generally, the note-taking as far as the number of the item, they generally follow a sequence, although there may be items that are placed in different locations depending on when the exams may have been conducted.
All right. Are the examiners in your section given codes to identify their notes with?
Well, all examiners have symbols, lab symbols, instead of initials. Mine are UJ. It's just a kind of a alphabetical sequencing that we have, just so we don't confuse initials.
Who is QJ?
QJ is Bill Bodziak.
And he is someone you worked with on this case?
Yes.
And the number that appears at the top of the notes, is that a case number, discrete case number?
Right. That would refer to the year, month, day, and the case number that was sequenced in the Evidence Control Center.
Do you remember, Mr. Diedrich, on June 25th and 27th of 1985, that the FBI at its Quantico facility hosted an international symposium in hair and fiber specialists?
Right. I remember that.
Do you remember that a committee was appointed in order to attempt to define some standards that would be recognized within the profession?
Right. I sat in on one of the panels.
Were you a member of the committee that defined standards?
No, I just was on one of the panels that was discussing Atlas of hair characteristics.
Okay. Do you recall that the Standards Committee recommended using a checklist such as the one that we reviewed yesterday?
They may have, yes.
I take it that is something with which you had disagreed sometime before that symposium was ever held.
No, I don't necessarily disagree with the use of a checklist. I don't use it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the checklist if it helps you to conduct your examinations better.
Yesterday, by the way, you indicated no great degree of familiarity with the laboratory, the RCMP, which yielded this proposed two-part checklist that we looked at. Is that an accurate reflection of your testimony?
Well, I've never been there. I've only spoken to Mr. Gaudet, and if they use a checklist, I guess you've furnished that to me.
Isn't it true that in the past you have expressed some admiration for the operations of the RCMP in hair and fibers? Under oath?
Well, yes. In the papers that I've read, the one by Barry Gaudet, I don't agree with everything in the paper, but the idea that he's saying is that hair examinations are significant, hair associations are significant. I agree with that. I think that that's the right idea.
Okay. Now, the first part of your notes merely reflects the receipt of certain materials and the assignment to these materials of Q numbers,
That's right.
meaning that at this stage of the game they are questioned.
Right. All those would be question items.
Right. And do you use the word question or questioned, just out of curiosity? We see it both ways in transcripts.
Oh,
Which term is used in your laboratory?
well, I don't know if it matters. I mean,
Okay.
I've seen it both ways.
All right, fine. But known always means that you have some positive way of identifying the source of anything marked with a K.
Right, that's correct.
After you have inventoried the things that have been sent into you by whatever agency you are helping, you then go to examination of questioned items, correct?
That's correct.
All right. I don't believe in your direct examination you mentioned that you examined a number of items that were retrieved from Chicago.
I don't believe I did, no.
Would you look at page 5 of your notes and tell the jury just a little bit about what it was that was submitted to you and what you found with respect to materials from Chicago?
Sustained.
May we approach?
Not at this point.
May I make it my witness on this point?
Not at this point.
All right. In that event, Mr. Diedrich, would you point to the first area in your notes where you begin to examine things rather than just to describe and label them?
All right, I'm there.
What page is that?
That would be page 7.
Okay. Page 7 of, I believe, 16, correct?
Yeah, I don't know what the total number of note pages are, but
Look at the last page on the top and see if you see the number 16.
that's correct.
Okay. All right. Is this typical of the manner in which you go about examining questioned items?
That's typical.
Do you always examine the questioned items before exposing yourself to the characteristics of the known items that you seek to compare later on?
Generally, yes.
What is the reason for doing things in that order?
Well, the one reason is not to open up the knowns in the same area, at least have them exposed on the surface of the counter where you're going to be looking at the question material. Sometimes it's useful, though, to look at the knowns just to get an idea of the color, the length, the curl, to get an idea of what you might be looking for in question items of evidence, if you have a large quantity of evidence to look through. I do it just to familiarize myself with what type of person or surface this fabric may have had contact with. study it.
If you were to look at the knowns in a given case and find that all three relevant people were blondes, it would save you a lot of time looking at brunette and Asian and other hairs, correct?
Right, and again, you may have racial differences between a suspect and a victim, and you may be looking at first for a particular racial group.
Now, there are a great number of fibers and other miscellaneous materials described in your notes from your inspection in the microscope which have not been talked about in your testimony. Is that a fair statement?
That's fair.
When you examine hair characteristics, do you note those aspects of the hair you're looking at that seem significant?
In the known characterization, yes.
I'm talking about question now. When you're looking at a questioned hair through the microscope before you get to the comparison microscope, this is a two-stage process, is it not?
Right.
You first identify what it is that the naked eye might not be able to tell with one microscope, and then when you get to the knowns, you put them together as we saw yesterday in your sketch, correct?
That's right.
So on page 8, for instance, where we're looking at you examining hairs, at the top, for instance, dark brown, too dark brown, Caucasian origin head hair fragments. Is that what COHH means?
That's right.
Okay. Do you normally, as you make this observation, this threshold observation, see any of the characteristics which will become important in testing similarity later on? Is this microscope powerful enough for you to see the medulla, cortex?
Yeah, sure. You may use a range of magnifications from low magnification up through 250 magnification, or maybe higher, but at this point it's mainly just a scan and taking a look at what you have and not necessarily pinpointing specific microscopic characteristics.
The pinpointing will be done in the comparison stage later on if you get to that as to a particular hair, right?
Right. If the hair is suitable for comparison, and once the comparison process starts, you take a real close look at the microscopic characteristics at that point.
And you repeatedly use in your observations an acronym NSF-SCP, which means not suitable for significant comparison purposes, correct?
Right.
All right. And that simply means you have to discard that item when it comes to future procedures.
Right.
It
Generally,
does not
that's
have potential value.
right. That generally those aren't compared.
Okay. Is it fair to say, as you look over your notes on hair comparisons on pages 8 and 9, that there are very few characteristics described individually?
There are very few. That's right.
You may say that a hair is club and negroid, but you don't make a practice of noting the medulla, the ovoid bodies,
Right.
the pigment, the cuticle, the length, etc.
That's-
I take that back. The length you normally note, do you not?
Right. I generally note how long the hair was.
Okay. And is that because you retain in your memory what it is that you're seeing, even though you don't write it down?
Well, you do retain a little bit, but you don't always retain all the characteristics. That's why you need to look at the hairs with a comparison microscope.
But if I were to ask you as to any of these individual hairs, the appearance of the ovoid bodies and the pigment and the cortex and so forth, I take it you might have some difficulty calling those to mind.
Well, yes, I wouldn't recall specifically which hairs, although I have, on some of the hairs I have a pretty vivid memory, but others I don't.
Okay. Now, would you turn to page 16 of your notes?
Okay.
Do I take it from the fact that this is the last page of your notes, that this is the last operation you performed in working up this case?
Well, it would have been, right, it would have been at a stage before the comparison process took place.
Are the comparisons described earlier in the notes?
Well, they would have been, yes.
Well, you use the word similar in some cases, do you not?
Right, right.
You use the word like, correct?
That's right.
You use the word unlike.
I did.
You do not at any time in your notes use the word same, do you, Mr. Deaver?
I don't believe I did.
No. Now, as to the known hairs, first of all, K7 is a whole series of hairs that were submitted as coming from the head of Mr. Simpson, correct?
Right, that's correct.
You never received any limb hairs or pubic hairs from Mr. Simpson, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. But you did as to both victims.
Yes.
You have 3 types of hair for Mr. Goldman, 3 for Mrs. Simpson, and just the head hair for Mr. Simpson, is that correct?
Right, I had,
Pardon me?
Proceed.
okay, I received a head hair sample from each person. I also received eye hairs from and limb hairs from both victims, but I only received a head hair sample from the defendant.
Okay. Now, without going through all of the notes, is it fair to say that your description as you examine the known hairs, starting with K7, Mr. Simpson, is rather detailed.
Well, it's somewhat detailed, yes.
Well, you cover quite a few of the characteristics that were showing up on our various lists, yes, do you not?
They appear to be similar words, yes.
And as to K4, Nicole Simpson, you, in similar fashion, are rather detailed in describing the various characteristics that you seem to find significant as you examine these hairs under the microscope.
That's correct.
This is not a comparison microscope at this stage. It is still the 50 to 100 power, is it?
Oh, no, no. The comparison microscope is, as I said, two microscopes that are connected optically, and you can shut off one microscope. So essentially, the examinations are being conducted up to 400 magnification. It's a regular research microscope. When you do the comparisons, you essentially turn on the other one so you can see both microscopes. So it's a regular research compound microscope.
Right. And with a combination of mirrors, I suppose, you appear to fit the images together even though they don't actually join physically in that fashion.
Right. If you go to the comparison phase, you would just essentially redirect the light through prisms for both microscopes.
Okay. And as to Mr. Goldman, the K1 series of hairs that were taken from his head, you, in like fashion, have quite a bit of detail describing what that hair looks like, do you not?
I do, yes.
But when we go back through your notes and find that you are noting something is like or similar to one of the K hairs, none of that kind of detail is generally present. Is that a fair statement?
No, that's correct.
Okay. Now, Mr. Diedrich, is it not fair to say that the integrity of the work that you do in cases of this sort is in many ways limited by the integrity of what has been done prior to the time you received the samples?
Yes.
For instance, if someone were to mix up different kinds of hairs so that you were informed that a hair came from one place when in fact it came from another, that would interfere substantially with the conclusions that you're able to draw as to probable source, would it not?
Well, I think the comparison would still be valid and the associations or exclusions would be valid, but the significance of the finding would be questionable.
Exactly. In other
Right.
words, you have to know whether or not a fiber or hair that you find to be significant actually came from where it says in the papers that it came from.
Right. We're at the mercy of those that collect and send the evidence to us.
Exactly. Did you ever go to this crime scene?
I did not.
Do you normally go to crime scenes when you're involved in a case of this sort?
No. I have in the past, but it's not very often.
Do you ever give instruction to local police agencies that seek your services as to what they should do at the crime scene or how they should handle the evidence?
I have through either lecture or conversation given advice on how crime scenes should be conducted.
Did you play any such role in this case?
No. I came in after the fact.
Okay. When was the first time that you came to Los Angeles in connection with the Simpson matter?
That would have been, well, it was August 23rd, I believe. I was here.
Okay, and for what purpose, if you can tell me?
Well, I had a trial in federal court, and I stopped over at the crime lab and also with the DA's office.
So this was more incidental than purposeful, I think.
Right. It killed two birds with one stone, essentially.
Okay. And did you at that time attempt to interview any of the people who were involved in the collection process?
I did speak with Detective Van Adder. I did speak with Susan Brockbank. I spoke with Colin Yamuchi. And that's about all the individuals I spoke with, I believe.
Without going into what was said, did you quiz them about what they had done individually at the crime scene that might have some significance to the work you expected to do?
No, not so much at the crime scene. I was interested to know something about packaging, processing techniques, how they do processing in the crime lab. I was interested to know about cut marks that I saw on the gloves. I did take a look at the glove at that point. I saw some cut marks, and I asked some questions about that.
Did you ever observe that one of the gloves appeared to be worn? The leather being worn. Did you notice that at any time?
Worn. Both gloves appeared to be, to have been worn and also affected by body fluids stained and misshaped.
You saw on the gloves what appeared to be dried blood. Is that?
It looked like little pools of dried blood in the crevices of the glove. Yes.
Did you ever ask to see any of the photographs depicting or videotapes depicting the handling and removal of the body?
Well, no. I may have seen something like that on television, but I've never seen any actual footage as a viewing.
Well, even if it was on television, do you recall seeing Mr. Goldman's body removed from the scene and placed on a gurney?
I do recall that, but not specifically as to what he may have had contact with, but I do recall the body being removed.
And did you see that it was actually sort of dragged across the ground for a little way as it was coming out of the dirt area?
No, I wasn't really paying too much attention at that point.
I want you to look at the photo that is in evidence. What's the name? P56, and just ask you if you have seen it before.
I've got to cut off the copper.
You haven't been to the crime scene, Mr. Diedrich, but you were able to recognize earlier the hat and gloves for the benefit of the court and jury. Was that done because you had seen photos even though you hadn't seen the actual items?
Right, I saw some photographs.
Is this a photo that you have seen before with the number 100 in the background?
I don't think I've ever seen that photograph.
If the body of Mr. Goldman were dragged over the soil and there were hairs in the soil similar to that of Mr. Simpson, might there not have been a transference there of the
Sure.
one hair that you found?
Sure,
You have no way of knowing from what part of the shirt that hair came, is that correct?
that's right.
And it was almost too short to use for comparison, was
It
it
was
not?
extremely small,
Yeah.
yes.
Next question. You were asked on direct examination about the two gloves. You testified that the Bundy glove had a coarse hair compatible with the Akita Kato on the surface of the glove, correct?
I believe I testified to that effect, yes.
You testified that the Rockingham glove had fur hairs consistent with the belly of that animal on it when you examined it, correct?
Well, it could have been from the belly or from the under fur off the back. I don't even know if I know where the known samples came from, but could have been from either source.
But you prepared a chart
Right,
purporting to show that the Rockingham glove had fur-type hairs on it,
right. It had fur hairs.
and that you have previously described those as being common to the underpart of a dog as opposed to the tougher coat.
Okay, and maybe just a matter of semantics here. When I say the under fur, essentially under the outer coat, which could be on the belly and it could be on the back, but it's just the soft, fine hairs that are closer to the body.
If that dog used this shaded place to sleep or lie down on a regular basis when it was at the Bundy residence, might you expect some fur hairs to be left behind in the soil?
I would expect that, yes.
And if the Rockingham glove were deposited at any time on that soil, might that not explain the presence of those hairs?
It could, yes.
Okay, thank you. You showed us, I believe, at the outset of your testimony when you were educating the jury as to the science of hair and fibers, the analogy to a pencil. Is that an analogy that you used when you were a young examiner?
That's right. That's in the formative years of hair testimony, the pencil is often used.
But by the 6th or 7th year of your career, had you not discarded it as not very useful?
Well, it's always useful. Some people maybe can picture a hair structure a little better by a pencil than maybe a drawing because it's three-dimensional. But some examiners still use it, and I think I did here.
Okay. You testify in Alaska in 1988 against a gentleman named Anthony.
Yeah, that's correct, I did.
What's counsel referring to?
It's foundational at this point. I don't know that we're going to use anything.
Was it?
But I assume we're leading to that.
What's that?
I assume we're leading to a transcript.
I intend to ask him whether he said certain things, certainly.
All right, counsel's entitled to see that.
All right. Well, I was unaware that one had to.
Let me see the sidebar with court,
All right.
please. All right, thank you, counsel. Proceed.
You recall testifying in that case, do you not?
I do, yes.
Do you remember whether or not, during your testimony, you described the RCMP lab in Canada as having a pretty good setup, as well as a home office, central research establishment, and the med lab in England? Do you recall that reference?
I believe they probably do have good setups, although I haven't seen any of them. In terms of the data that they put out, the results, the studies that they conduct.
What is the med lab in England, incidentally?
The Med Lab, it's in London. Actually, the Med Lab, it's actually changed since then. The Med Lab and the Home Office Central Research Establishment, which handles all the labs in England, they're merging right now. But they're two separate entities. It's like the Med Lab in Toronto and the RCMP in Canada. Two separate systems.
Okay. Do you remember saying with reference to the pencil, when we first get in training and start testifying, it's kind of a nice prop, but I don't use it anymore?
Objection.
Sustained.
Counsel, transcript people have never seen it.
Sustained. Foundational objection.
All right.
It's
You-
called foundation, and we stand when we make those objections. Proceed. The objection is sustained.
Did you say in that case, if you can recall, that you don't use that analogy anymore in 1988?
Sustained.
All right. Mr. Dietrich, you have testified in quite a number of cases, have you not? 400, I believe you've said.
I have, yes.
And in each of those cases, you have been disposed to acquaint the court and jury with your estimation of your experience in the field of hair and fibers.
I try to do that, yes.
That generally involves some description of the number of cases that you've had
Generally does, yes.
and the number of places that you've testified, courts, state, federal, territorial, things like that,
That's right.
and other information about your experience.
That's correct.
Okay. Is it fair to say that by 1984 you had been an examiner after your one-year period for 6 years?
Approximately 6 years, Ryan.
Okay. And were you then receiving about 30 cases a month for your own handling? I think that's the figure you gave us yesterday.
Right. Well, I don't recall exactly how many I've gotten over the years. I'd have to go back and take an average, but 30 cases would be probably about right.
Okay. Well, you've told this jury in this case that you have examined 4,000 cases in round numbers and testified 400 times. Is that correct?
Overruled.
Wasn't that your statement on direct examination?
Right. In this particular case, yes.
All right. Now, are you a careful person when you give testimony, Mr. Dietrich?
Sure, I try to be.
You know that it may be of importance in evaluating your testimony for the jury to have accurate representations as to your experience.
I try to be as accurate as possible.
And you have been working steadily for the 17 years that you've been an examiner.
I have.
Did you testify in 1987 that you had already handled 4,000 cases?
I don't recall. I may have. I don't know. I don't recall what you're referring to.
Okay. Did you testify in 1990 that you had handled 4,000 cases in New York?
I kind of got stuck on the 4,000. I actually stopped counting cases after a while. I used to keep records on all the cases that I worked, all the testimonies that I had, and I've stopped counting. So it may be more than that.
Did you testify in 1991 that you'd handled 4,000 cases?
Like I said, I kind of stopped at 4,000.
And did you testify in 1993 that you'd handled 4,000 cases?
Probably so. Sure.
Now, Dietrich, in an effort to find out how thoroughly you examine each of these cases as such, and I assume a case means the involvement of multiple materials, hairs, fibers, whatever.
Yes, it does.
Sometimes, I believe you said, running into the hundreds.
Right. That's
Certainly
right.
true in this case.
That's right.
Okay. The amount of time available to you to spend on a case is of some significance as to whether you are seeing everything that you need to see, is it not?
Right. It's relative.
If you were forced to accept an overload because examiners got sick or whatever and work had to be done, it would minimize your opportunity to exercise care and be reflective.
No, I don't believe that it minimizes the attention you spend on a case. Obviously, you have to prioritize your operations, and the casework is pretty much the same. You give the case the same attention that you possibly can give it.
When you look through the microscope initially at an object, hair or fiber, do you just glance at it? Do you study it? How much time would you estimate that you need at a minimum to form the necessary impression of the object being scrutinized?
Well, it depends on the item. Some items are pretty quickly identified, and others may take a little while.
Okay. Do you have any estimate at all as to the average amount of time that you need in order to make a proper observation?
Well, observations are made very quickly, and as you're going through the material that's on a slide, so that multiple observations can be made within a minute. You could identify most of the material on that slide.
Okay. And what about the comparison microscope? If you get to that stage as to a certain question and unknown object, do you take a little more time there in order to study the matter?
Sure, it takes a little longer to do that.
Okay. How many different cases would you say that you could handle in an hour at your laboratory, average type cases?
In 1 hour?
Yeah.
Well, if the average case is somewhere between 10 and 20 items, each examiner has a technician who prepares material. 10 cases could be prepared and ready to work at one time. One could, depending on the size of the case, could work 2 cases, possibly 3 a day as far as the comparisons go, depending on the size. Smaller cases you can turn around quickly.
Okay. And you have testified that you do this in a 5-hour day, generally.
Well,
That is from 7 to 12
right,
here at the microscope.
Right, at the microscope, that's correct.
Okay, well, that's all I'm interested in for purposes of this line of questioning.
Right.
All right. And as of 1987 in May, you had been an examiner for how long?
87 would be 9 years, I guess.
Okay. If you work 5 hours a day, 250 days a year, for 9 years, and examine 4,000 cases, do you have any idea at the rate at which you were going through those cases?
Well, I think we've already shown that your mathematics is better than mine, but,
You want to take a stab at it?
well, like I said, if you work about 300 to 400 cases a year, in that range, in 10 years, you're closing in over the 3,000 mark. And that's what it averaged there for a long time. I was really working a lot of cases. It slowed down during the past few years.
But it appears that you have increased not one whit since 1987, but still at 4,000. Is that true? You've done no cases since then?
Well, no, like I said, I kind of got to the point where I stopped counting, and I probably got stuck on this 4,000.
Okay.
I'm sure I've worked more cases than that.
Have you had a chance just to glance at the article I handed you? I don't intend to go into its text.
I did. I read it.
Are you familiar with the subject TLC, which does not mean tender loving care?
Yeah, I am, yes.
Okay. Is that a process that can be used to further define the likeness between suspect fibers?
Yes, it could be used.
Is it a process with which you are familiar?
I've used it in the past, yes.
And its technical name is thin layer chromatography, correct?
That's correct.
In essence, what are you doing when you apply that technique to a question fiber?
Well, it's a method by which you can extract or take out the coloring or the dye that's present in the fiber and then separate that dye on a plate or a gel plate. And the dyes or the components of the color that make up the fiber will separate, and you'll have bands of color.
Do you remember what you told us early in your direct examination about the amount of cotton fiber that is manufactured in the United States every year?
5 billion pounds.
Okay. Do you have any idea whatsoever of the number of fabrics of a blue-black nature that look black to the naked eye that were distributed in the Los Angeles area in the past 5 or 10 years?
I have no idea.
Did you apply thin layer chromatography to the samples you derived in this case?
I did not.
Thank you, that's all.
Ms. Clark.
May we approach, Your Honor? We have a, before I finish the cross, we have a matter to bring up.
for one juror.
Oh.
All right, Mr. Bailey. All right, we have all of our jurors present again.
Mr. Diedrich, I want to ask you, with respect to certain items that have been referred to in your testimony, whether these assertions are acceptable from your point of view. In other words, whether or not you find them to be true. First of all, as to hair found in the Bronco, would you agree that no hair consistent with Nicole Brown Simpson was found in the Bronco?
That's correct.
Would you also agree that no hair consistent with Ronald Goldman was found in the Bronco?
That's correct.
Okay. With respect to fiber in the Bronco, would you agree that no fiber consistent with either glove was found in the Bronco?
That's right.
Would you agree that no fiber consistent with Goldman's clothes was found in the Bronco?
That's correct.
As to both gloves, and that no fiber consistent with Nicole Brown Simpson's clothes was found in the Bronco?
That's correct.
With respect to both gloves, would you agree that no hair consistent with O.J. Simpson, as you have used that term consistent, was on the Bundy glove?
That's right.
And quite apart from the unidentified
I was
hairs,
just going
one
to
limb,
ask about
one
juror
fragment,
number
I think, that
7,
thought
and you
was from an
did.
African American, is it not also true that no hair consistent with O.J. Simpson was found on the Rockingham glove?
That's correct.
As to the socks that you examined, would you agree that no hair consistent with Ronald Goldman was found on the sock?
I would.
And that no hair consistent with Nicole Brown Simpson was found on the sock?
That's correct.
As to fiber, with respect to your examination of the sock, do you agree that there is on the sock no fiber consistent with either glove?
I would, yes.
No fiber consistent with Goldman's clothes,
That's right.
and no fiber consistent with Nicole Brown Simpson's clothes?
That's correct.
Would you also agree that the fact that 35 hairs with roots were found on Ronald Goldman's shirt area, I believe, is that where the bulk of them were located,
That's right.
strongly suggests to you that those hairs were pulled out by an attacker before he attacked Goldman, and that the directionality goes from Nicole Brown Simpson to Ronald Goldman?
It appears from that evidence, yes.
Would you also agree that you found in the hairs in the hat what appeared to be an
Oh,
indication
no.
of dandruff on the cuticle?
Wrong button.
No, there was dandruff in the known hairs,
Yes,
right, in the known sample.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
in the known sample.
That's right.
Technically,
It's not
I
true that you
wasn't
found
muted
no
there.
indication
Josh.
of dandruff in the knit hat,
That's right.
Nope.
or in any of
It
the
was
hairs that you have said
that
could
was
have come
muted.
from O.J. Simpson. in
That's
the knit
right.
hat.
That's correct.
You have said that fibers tend to come and go as they cling to clothing and then fall off and so forth.
Right.
What about hairs? Do they sometimes hang around for a long time once attached to a given object?
They may, depending on the garment and what happens to the garment.
Did you find some cat hairs in your examinations of the
Especially
materials
if
in
you're
this case?
wearing black
did.
and
Can you
you're a
tell the court
server.
where you found them?
No, I wasn't muted. You heard me cough.
Collage as an exhibit, since it was exhibit to the jury.
When we use the,
Average
paper
view
version?
duration from my viewers for this stream,
1224.
22 minutes and 53 seconds. I've been streaming for an hour and 29 minutes. People are able to hang in for 23 minutes now. Ooh.
Mr. Bailey.
Okay, shall I just read them off as I find them? Is
Tell
that-
us what you found with respect
Just
to
read
cat
the whole
hairs.
book out loud,
Now,
please.
on
Just-
Q4,
it'll be
which
faster.
was the cap from the defendant's vehicle, there was a cat hair. Q4 was the cap that was found on the floorboard. There was also a cat hair that was recovered from Nicole Brown's dress, I recall. There were a number of cat hairs recovered
We
from
are
the tapings
going to get so close to finishing
from Cowling's Bronco.
this video, July 6th, and then we go to July 7th. I'm just going to keep this stream going until July 6th is over. We're going to be that close. It's just going to be a little over time. might be 45 minutes
There was a
more
cat
instead
hair
of
recovered
30.
from-
Maybe.
A Chicago item, which we haven't talked about.
Oh, tomorrow's going to be such a good day.
How about the Q4 cap? Did you mention that?
Q4, well, it would have been the same cap, right, from the Bronco, and there's also cat hair on the shovel.
Right. Okay, now, cat hairs, like other hairs, can stay in place for quite some period of time.
Right, they can.
Yes.
Did you ever inquire
But it's
of anyone
quick.
as to whether or not
It's quick.
either of the
Real
Simpsons
quick.
had a cat, or the children? In other words, whether there was one around.
I believe it came up at one point. I
Do
don't
they
recall
want
the
a
answer
cat?
to that.
Did you
Does
learn
someone
that
want a cat?
Nicole Brown Simpson had not had any cat for more than 5 months prior to the murder?
Sustained.
Okay. I'll ask you to assume that fact, and then ask you if it's unusual that there should be a cat hair on her dress in light of those circumstances.
Proper hypothetical since fact not known.
Sustained.
All right? There is no way that you can tell, either at the time of your examination or today, how long that hair had been on that dress. True?
There's no way to know that, no.
There is no way that you can tell how long the K7 similar hairs inside and outside the Bundy cap had been there
No.
prior
there
to June
isn't.
12th.
No, there's no way.
There is no way to tell how the non-K7, that is, unlike hairs and hair fragments of African-American origin found inside and outside the Bundy cap, some of which were treated. No way to tell how long they had been there, correct?
That's right.
And there is no way to tell, Mr. Diedrich, which came first, is there?
No, there's no way to know.
Ms. Clark.
Wait, did he just prove the point? There was,
Have you ever
Bobby,
examined,
was there cat hair found on the shovel that was in OJ's car? And then there was cat hair found, what, on Ron or on Nicole? Were they the same cat? I missed this part. Is that what happened? And Bailey was questioning it hard? Like he just put that in my mind. I didn't connect that till his questions
The hair
and your
samples
text.
taken from inmates who have been incarcerated for a month or more.
I have.
And in examining those hair samples of inmates who've been incarcerated for a month or more, have you noticed anything about their hair condition as a result of the incarceration?
Well, it may change, and dandruff is one good example of that.
Could you explain, please?
Well, the hair characteristics, hairstyles, hair hygiene, a lot of things change, I would assume. I've never been in jail, but I would assume that conditions change to what you're normally accustomed to, and that might be one, that your shampoo changes and how you take care of yourself may change.
And so dandruff on the hair samples taken from inmates that have been incarcerated for a month or more, is that a common or uncommon thing for you to find?
Oh, that's not uncommon to see that.
And the fact that the hairs inside the knit cap found at Bundy, which you determined were consistent with those of the defendant, the fact that they did not have dandruff, did that cause you to rule the defendant out as the possible source for those hairs?
No, it's not one of the characteristics that's used for exclusion.
Why not?
Well, because it most often is maybe a temporary condition, and also it may not be present on the surface of the hair for very long. If a hair is deposited on a clothing item, contacts or whatever may dislodge it. It's not something that's attached. It just happens to be there.
Now, you just spoke of cat hairs. You said you saw some cat hairs on the items recovered from the Bundy scene.
Right, there was one cat hair that was recovered from Nicole Brown's dress.
And you said you saw also cat hairs in the shovel and on the floorboard from the defendant's Bronco.
Right, there were a couple hairs, that's correct, from inside the Bronco.
Did the cat hairs from inside the defendant's Bronco appear to originate from the same kind of cat that deposited the hair on Nicole Brown?
I didn't even attempt to make that comparison. I just
See.
made the identification.
That they were
He
cat
was
hairs?
hitting
They were cat
home.
hairs.
So you can't even tell us if they look
How
like
long has that hair been here? But my whole life has been, where did that hair come from? Interesting. I don't have blonde hair.
it came from the same cat.
It could be 3 different cats for all I know at this point.
Yes, and did you make any determination in that regard with respect to the cat hairs in the Bronco owned by A.C. Cowan?
I didn't attempt to make a comparison. I had no actual known standards. There were more cat hairs from the tapings from A.C. Cowling's Bronco,
Monica has blonde hair.
which suggests to me that perhaps he had a cat, or more likely to have a cat.
Monica.
And if a cat happened to walk through the Bundy crime scene shortly after the murders, might that cause hair from that cat to be deposited on either Nicole Brown or Ronald Goldman or anywhere at the scene?
Well, yeah, that's possible. I mean, we can stretch this, I guess.
Okay, let's. For example, if there was a cat that used to walk through the Bundy crime scene before it became a crime scene, on previous occasions. Might that cause its hair to be deposited on the walkway?
Yes, it might.
And then in falling on the walkway, might Nicole Brown's body or dress pick up that hair?
That's possible.
No way to tell.
There's no way to know. I only see the end result.
You spoke, sir, of yesterday on cross-examination concerning the appearance of crushed hairs when someone has suffered an injury to the head. You recall that?
I do.
In this particular
Says
case,
the
sir,
other
do you
blonde
know
girl in
whether
chat.
the coroner submitted to you hair samples taken from the area of Nicole Brown's head that received injury in this case?
I do not. It did not appear to be a random sampling.
And when you say did not appear to be a random sampling, what do you mean by that?
Well, it appeared from the hairs that it was more like a clump of hairs, and they were all pulled.
From one location on the
It
head?
just appeared that way. It had a pretty narrow range of characteristics.
And is that the preferred method for taking a hair standard from someone?
No, the preferred method is a random sampling from different areas as well as combings.
And when you get, let me ask you about Ron Goldman's sample then, sir. Did that have an appearance like that of Nicole Brown's, that is a clump?
Well, it appeared to be a rather uniform sample, which suggests a clump as opposed to random sampling.
A clump taken from one area of the head instead of the preferred method of all areas of the head?
It appeared that way. It's not uncommon, from my experience, to get those types of samples in. It's not the preferred way.
And when you get that kind of a sample in, does that inhibit your ability to make the associations that you should be able to make if you had a good standard to questioned items?
Right. It may limit the comparison process. That is, some hairs which may have
Not
originated
for
from a
long.
person may be thrown out.
We're almost done with
They may
this
not
guy.
be included as a possible source of that hair because they're a little bit outside the range of characteristics.
Because the range you got in your standard was too limited?
Right. I had a better range of characteristics, for instance, from Ron Goldman's shirt, from the hairs that were damaged that came off probably during the struggle, than I did in the actual known hair sample.
Did you see any naturally shed hairs on Ron Goldman's body?
Well, there
On
was
his shirt?
not on the shirt, no, on the pants. There
On his
was
jeans?
right. There was one hair on the pants.
And how did that hair look in comparison to the hairs that you saw that had been collected by the coroner, the hair standard?
Well, it was again very short, naturally shed, approximately 1 inch in length, and it was similar to the proximal portion of the known standard in a limited sense.
Was it similar to any other hairs that you examined in this case?
Well, it was similar to the hair that was found on the Rockingham glove.
That brown Caucasian hair you talked about earlier?
Right, that's correct.
Which was also naturally shed, correct?
Right, same length, naturally shed.
Now, you spoke a little, I think you mentioned on cross-examination that it was rare to see hairs on the head of a person, a homicide victim, that had a crushed appearance. You recall that?
I recall saying something like that, yes.
First of all, let me ask you this. If Nicole Brown had been struck on the head by the fist of her assailant, would that cause the appearance of her hairs, if hairs were taken from that area and submitted to you, would it cause their appearance to be crushed when you examine them under the microscope?
No.
Why not?
Well, hairs are very resilient and they're also very small. The injuries that one would sustain would be more to the underlying tissues, like the scalp, as opposed to the hair. The hair would just bounce back. Couldn't see that microscopically. You can actually hammer a hair sometimes, depending on the surface, the hardness of the surface, and not even see any evidence of that.
Well, what about if the murderer took Nicole Brown and shoved her against the wall, causing her head to hit against the wall, to the extent that she had a brain contusion? Let me ask you this, or concussion. If the hair from that area of her head that hit the wall were submitted to you, would you expect to see those hairs appear crushed under the microscope?
Sustained.
May we be heard, Your Honor?
Sustained.
What kinds of force would you expect? Let me ask you in a general sense. If someone hit their head against the wall and was knocked unconscious, would you expect the hair in the area where the head hit the wall to appear crushed in your examination under the microscope?
Or will be.
Again, with a clarification, are you asking about the hairs that are still on the head? Those hairs, or the hairs that are stuck on the wall?
The hairs that are still on the head.
All right. probably wouldn't see any damage to them. Crushed areas on hairs are more commonly found when they're extracted and there's damage to that area. That is, the crushing causes the breakage. Windshield impacts on hit-and-run cases are good examples of that, and also massive head injuries that may be accompanying actually a sharp instrument. You may see also some crushing as well.
All right, sir, you talked a little bit yesterday also about the terminology same versus different. If you were to take two head hairs from your head and examine them microscopically, would they match in each and every way?
I object as to approach.
Sustained with the court reporter, please.
Oh my God, it's my time to shine. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna do this so good. Oh yes. Yay!
Ms. Clark,
Yes.
why don't you rephrase the question?
Thank you, Your Honor. If you were to take two hairs from your own head and examine them under the microscope, would you expect them, all of the characteristics, to appear the same to you?
No, I wouldn't. Not necessarily.
And why is that?
Oh, she
Oh, because
said
the hairs
match.
differ a little bit
Josh,
on your own
you're
head.
right.
They're not mere images of each other. There's some variation because they're biological structures. Some may have a medulla, some may not on your same head. Some may be lighter in color, some may be darker in color. So it's important that you get a random sampling to get a good idea about the kinds of hairs that that person has on his head.
And the sampling that you received for the exemplar taken from Mr. Simpson, was that a good random sampling in your opinion?
Right, it was taken pretty much at my direction, at least discussions with Susan Brockbank, that pullings as well as combings be taken. Yes, and that was what the sample included.
And when you examined the known hairs taken from Mr. Simpson and compared them to the question hairs, for example, in the blue knit cap, were you able to see the same microscopic characteristics throughout the range of the kind of hairs Mr. Simpson has?
Objection pleading, ask an answer.
Right, the range of characteristics that was exhibited by the known standard was also reflected in the range of characteristics exhibited by the question hairs. That is, by the photographs that were displayed. Some were relatively fine hairs, not heavily pigmented, not evidenced of one-sided pigmentation, whereas other hairs were coarser hairs, well, fatter hairs, and they had definite one-sided pigmentation. So that's a very good consideration. It's an important consideration as a hair examiner when conclusions have to be drawn as to how the range corresponds.
And you found that in this case with respect to the defendant's hair?
I did. I found a good range.
You also discussed a little bit the photographs that you could have taken showing the field of view as you saw it through the microscope, on the comparison microscope, in which there was what we demonstrated for the jury in that chart, the circle with a line through it showing half and half, which was actually two hairs.
Right.
You did not take the photographs in that manner for this case, did you?
I did not. I don't recommend doing it either.
And why is that?
Well, there's problems inherent with the system. That is, when you're using two light sources, two microscopes, two sets of prisms, and you're looking at using film that's extremely sensitive, color film that's extremely sensitive to color variation, color temperature variation. When I say color temperatures, there's a temperature that the light bulb has, the light source, and it's incorporated into the developing process of your color film. And if there's just the slightest variation in the intensity of the light that the eye might not even see, that would show up as a difference on one side of your negative and one side of your photographic print. So you might have a little difference in background illumination. It's much easier and it's better because you show more of the hair. You get the whole field of view as opposed to just half a field, and allows you to see more of the hair. So I think there's more benefit as a layperson to see the characteristics better.
So in the other cases where
hairs
you
make
have
the
prepared
world go
photographs to demonstrate what you have seen through the microscope in terms of your comparison of known to questioned hairs, have you always done it in this manner? Have you done it
I've
here?
always done it this way. It's just too difficult, cumbersome, and not as informative using the other method.
Concerning also the police officer elimination standards, you testified earlier to the fact that you received samples or standards taken from each of the police and lab personnel involved in the case.
Right.
And then I think you indicated on cross-examination that there were 2, sometimes 3 slides for each of them, correct?
That's right. A representative sample of hairs was prepared and mounted on slides.
Okay, now 2 slides, does that mean 2 hairs?
Oh, no, that a representative sampling would mean an adequate number of hairs to compare, which could be 20 to 30 hairs, perhaps.
Now, you also discussed the blue-black cotton fibers, some length on cross-examination. With respect to whether or not they could have come from the uniform of a Los Angeles police officer, are the LAPD uniforms made of cotton?
Well, the ones that I've seen are wool.
And what does that mean to you in terms of whether or not you can exclude a uniform of an LAPD officer as being a possible source of the blue-black cotton fibers found on Ron Golden's shirt, the Rockingham glove, and the defendant's socks?
Well, they're different fibers. I mean, there's no way that they would compare. Plus, the uniforms are blue, and the fabric that I'm referring to would look black to the naked eye.
What was it that was so unusual about this blue-black cotton fiber?
Well, it was unusual from the standpoint of the blue areas, the areas that were not dyed, at least didn't pick up the dye like the rest of the fiber. I thought that was significant as to the randomness and appearance of that lighter blue area. And it probably was a fabric cause, a
Me
causation
neither.
caused by the dyeing of the fabric.
Let me ask you something else. You said that there was correct me, did you say there was like a clump or bunch of those fibers on Ron Goldman's shirt?
Right, there was a small clump. That's correct.
And I think you also testified earlier that it is common to, in the handling of bodies and the handling of evidence, for fibers to be lost.
Right, you'll lose fibers during the handling process.
So that the number of fibers that were actually found on Ron Goldman's shirt may represent
should put
fewer
the
than were
police
originally there before his body was handled.
In
That's a very
spandex
reasonable statement, yes.
and yoga
Given the
pants.
number, or based on your examination of those fibers, the number, the appearance, etc., can you tell us what your opinion is in terms of how they came to be transferred to Ron Goldman's shirt?
Sustained.
Can you tell us whether you think that is the result of primary or secondary transfer?
Object, speculation.
Well, it's difficult to know precisely what caused fibers to transfer just by looking at them on a microscope slide. They could be transferred primarily through, as I said before, through direct contact or indirectly. Secondary transfer, in my opinion, probably would be less likely in this instance because of the numbers that we have. Direct transfer is more likely, although I can't exclude the other.
Now, sir, these blue-black cotton fibers that you examined, are they mounted on slides?
They are.
And when you completed the examinations that you conducted in this case, and the slides were prepared, the remaining hairs or fibers were replaced in their original bindles?
Right, there weren't very many left over.
And then what did you do with the items after you completed your examination of them?
Well, they bounced around a little bit at different stages.
Where was the first place they went after you completed your
Well,
examination?
they first went to a defense expert for analysis, and then they came back to me.
And then where did they go?
Well, then they were picked up by a representative from the district attorney's office.
And those hairs and fibers that are mounted on slides, can they be examined again if anyone desires to do so to compare to anything?
Sure, they're there to look at.
You spoke a little bit also about the hair that you found to be consistent with those of the defendant on Ron Goldman's shirt.
The one hair fragment, yes.
First of all, sir, can you tell us, when you examine hair under a microscope, can you determine based on that examination whether or not there is dirt on that hair?
Sure.
Is that a difficult or an easy task?
No, it's just a simple observation of what appears on the surface of the hair and the scales.
And with respect to the hair that you determined to be consistent with the defendant that was found on Ron Goldman's shirt, did you detect any dirt?
There was nothing to indicate to me that it had been laying in the dirt or out in the weather.
And you made the observation that fibers would be lost in the handling of bodies as in the natural course of things. Would that same observation apply to hairs?
Sure, there's kind of a natural loss. The more handling that takes place, the greater the loss.
And with respect to the fact that there was one hair you determined to be consistent with that of the defendant on Ron Goldman's shirt, is it possible also that there were more hairs that were lost in the course of processing the body?
Object, speculation.
Sustained.
It's her first day.
With respect to the length of time hairs have been in a particular location at the point they're collected, You indicated, I think, earlier that there were hairs consistent with those of the defendant that you examined that were collected from the plaid cap in the Bronco.
That's right.
Do you recall testifying to finding chew marks on some of those hairs?
I do, yes.
What is the significance of that finding?
It's indicative of a hair that's been laying around
So
in that
true.
environment for some time, long enough for bugs to get at it.
Did you find anything like that on the hairs you found to be consistent with those of the defendant in the blue knit cap?
No.
Let me ask you this, sir. The opinions that you have rendered today, are they confined to hair and fiber examinations that you conducted?
Pretty much so, yes.
Do any of those conclusions take into account that blood drops to the left of bloody size 12 shoe prints at Bundy match the DNA profile of the defendant?
I object.
Sustained.
Do your hair and fiber conclusions that you have told us about in your testimony take into account
What the
any
hell
of the
was that?
DNA evidence that has been adduced in testimony?
Overruled.
No, I wasn't even aware of any DNA results when I conducted my analysis. Conclusions reached are independent of that.
Now, you indicated in your testimony thus far that the defendant's hairs exhibited certain distinguishing characteristics.
He had very distinctive hairs, in my opinion.
And did you find those characteristics, those distinguishing characteristics, in the hairs you determined to be consistent with his in the blue knit cap?
Overruled.
I did, yes.
And those distinguishing characteristics, did you also find them in the hair on Ron Goldman's shirt?
I did.
You also testified, this is foundational, Your Honor. You also testified that you found fibers that displayed certain distinguishing characteristics that you, I think, testified looked very unusual to you, such as the blue-black cotton fibers on Ron Goldman's shirt, the Rockingham glove, and the defendant's socks, correct?
That's right.
And such as the carpet fibers that you determined to be consistent with those fibers from the defendant's carpet in his Bronco, which were found on the knit cap and the Rockingham glove.
That was significant as well.
Based on all of the hair and fiber comparisons and examinations that you did in this case, sir, what is your opinion as to whether the hairs in the blue knit ski cap, in fact, originated from the defendant?
Well,
Sustained.
Bobby, I'm so sorry you had to hear that. I am so sorry. Had I known she was going to flaunt court orders like that, I would never have
Do the
shown
fiber
this trial.
associations that you've testified to in this case, sir, have any impact on the significance of the associations concerning the hair examinations you've made on this case?
Objection, that's what we do.
Sustained.
Concerning the transfer that you talked about from Nicole to Ronald Goldman, the hair and fiber moving in that direction, can you tell us whether the murderer went back and forth between the two of them more than once based on your hair and fiber examinations?
Objection,
Sustained.
speculation.
No.
Was the dog barking? Does he know about that with the hair?
I have nothing further.
Was the 11 cents laying on hair?
That we referred to in the witness testimony be marked as, I believe, 1225.
I thought we marked, no, right, 1225.
All right. Mr. Diedrich, I thought you told us yesterday, when I questioned you about the use of the comparison microscope and the fact that you brought us no images of what you saw, I thought you said that a camera could have recorded what it was that you saw in the microscope. Did you not say that?
I did. It could record those images. That's
Okay.
correct.
And you could have brought to this courtroom the same images that you used when you wrote like or unlike in your notes without any supporting criteria. True?
I could have brought those images, yes.
And you chose not to do so, did you not?
I did.
Thank you.
And by choosing not to take the photograph in that manner, were you attempting to mislead or confuse the jury in some way?
I try to make it as simple as possible, and it's difficult to take 18 years of hair experience and fiber experience, and in the short time that I'm talking to a jury, get them to appreciate the value or the meaning or the significance of it. So I try to optimize it. I try to give you the best shot that I can, and the way I did it, I feel, is the best way to do it.
And you told Mr. Bailey that not very often do you have this many associations. What did you mean by that?
No, I object to that.
Sustained. It's beyond the scope.
Asked to reopen.
No.
Has anything you have heard on cross or recross examination, sir, changed any of your opinions or any of the results that you have found in your examinations?
Overruled.
Nothing that I've heard, any of the questions that I've been given influence my opinions on this case. I stand by my results.
Thank you.
Nothing further, but I ask to approach.
All right. Mr. Diedrich, thank you very much, sir. You're excused. And I think we'll take our recess at this point.
Let's freaking go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please remember all of my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions
We're
about
still
the
going,
case.
5 more
Don't allow
minutes.
anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. Don't conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you. And as far as the jury is concerned, we'll stand in recess until 1 o'clock.
If we go to that time, maybe just say one word to you.
Sure. All right. Doesn't matter. Mr. Simpson is again present before the court with his counsel.
We are now on
Shapiro.
July 8th,
And Mr. Bailey, Mr.
5th,
Blazier, people
9th,
represented by Mr. Darden.
7th,
Jury is not present.
7th, July 7th. That's where we are.
Mr.
There's only
Shapiro, do you want to proceed
one
at this
video.
moment, or do you want to wait for Mr. Cochran, who appears to be late?
Your Honor, we are going to be filing a written motion on 11:15.
And then tomorrow is July 7th and 10th.
Oral arguments on that. We will, however, have objections to certain photographs Mr. Douglas will address. And he is in the room.
All right, what is his ETA
I can't tell you precisely, but I expect him to be here.
momentarily? All right, is there anything else we can take up while we're waiting for Mr. Douglas and Mr. Cochran?
Yes, sir. You can take up some sanctions. You can take up some sanctions.
Well, I assume that they're en route. Mr. Darden, anything else that we need to take up?
Is he still here? Darden's still here? He's like, I don't know,
Bring
Judge.
up notebooks?
Mr. Calvert is back to reopen now.
All right.
Darden hates his job.
Well, I guess the two necessary parties, Mr. Douglas and Mr. Cochran, I guess we can't proceed without them.
Sure we can. Try. Give it a good college try. We have 2 more minutes till we stop the stream. I'm trying to see now if he has prison dandruff. Ever since they said that, I'm trying to see if OJ has prison dandruff. Oh, I like that. Yeah, he does.
We can begin on some of the items
All right.
with Mr. Darden. Let's go ahead, sir.
Your Honor, this morning I spoke to Mr. Douglas over the phone at approximately 9 o'clock. He indicated to me which of those items the defense will be objecting to today. And I agree with him on a couple of counts.
All right,
As-
I did receive a, by facsimile this morning, a letter.
Facsimile?
Do you have a copy of this letter that has a list of the defense objections?
No, we
All
are
right,
not.
Mrs.
receiving
Robertson,
the
would you have one of the law clerks, perhaps Ms. Carswell could make a couple of photocopies of this?
We can, I believe, stipulate to certain exhibits being withdrawn.
All right.
And those would include, Your Honor,
Why don't
exhibits.
you hold on, I'm having a photocopy made of the defense written objections for you, and we can just go down and tick them off and
Okay.
do this in an orderly fashion.
While we wait for that, we marked at some point in time, Exhibit 379, which apparently was a box containing shoe soles. We need the box back
Without the shoe soles or the whole enchilada?
without the shoe soles.
We have no objection.
All right, if you'll prepare the appropriate removal order.
Oh, enchiladas.
For what period of time
Yes,
do you need that?
sir.
This is just a cardboard box that once contained all of the soles. We need it back,
All right. My question is, how long do you need it for?
ever.
Forever?
Yeah, forever. It has no evidentiary value in the case.
All right, if there's no objection, we'll allow its release. Thank you. And Mr. Darden, once you approach. Oops. These got mixed up here. Hold on, don't go away. Let me give you another one for Mr. Shapiro.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty freaking hungry right now.
All right, the records reflect we've been rejoined by Mr. Cochran now. All right, Mr. Darden, you were saying that there were a few of these items that we can agree upon immediately.
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
Which items are those?
16 and 16A. Item 16 is Nicole Brown's will, and 16A, I believe, is the envelope that had once contained the will. There was a written inscription on the envelope which said, "Do not open unless in the presence of a lawyer," or words to that effect. We will withdraw 16 and 16A. Items 87 through 96. Those are the exhibits that relate to the Rosa Lopez conditional examination.
Yes.
We agree that they are irrelevant at this point.
All right, they will remain marked, however, for identification purposes. I'll note that they'll be withdrawn at this time unless and until that witness testifies.
Okay. And Mr. Clark has sent us word that we should withdraw 407 through 411. Those exhibits apparently were introduced during the 402 hearing and not introduced before the jury.
407 through 411. All right, you're going to withdraw those?
Yes.
Mrs. Robertson indicates 407 through 411 are actually a group of items.
My cat knows what time it is. My cat is crying. I gotta let my cat in.
Mrs. Robertson indicates 407 through 411 are a group of items.
Lafayette?
We will ask to withdraw 407 through 411.
All right.
Your Honor, Mr. Douglas is just coming up the elevators momentarily, and will address the remaining issues with the court's permission.
All right. I look forward to the argument on number 8, the objection being heresy.
Heresy.
All right, and counsel, have you each received a copy of the clerk's printout of exhibits? Mrs. Robertson, have you given each counsel a copy of the court's exhibit list? No, I'm just, have you? All right. Yeah, it appears to be approximately how many pages? About 50 pages? No, you don't need to do it right now. I just want to make sure that it's available. All right, it appears to be 50. The court's copy appears to be approximately 50 pages. So let's have one of the law clerks make a copy of this. All right, record should reflect that we've been joined now by Mr. Douglas. Good morning, Mr. Douglas.
Good morning. Sorry.
All right, are you prepared to go forward on the your arguments regarding the various items of evidence to which the defense has additional objections to?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. If the court pleases, I would like to also put on the record that I am going to be giving to Mr. Darden a reduced list of proposed defense witnesses. I will be giving him as well a list of witnesses whom the defense is withdrawing. And I have in my briefcase, and I will give to him as soon as we have a little respite, documents that would be discoverable given our current status of the case, that the people have now rested. There are some defense witnesses whom we intend to call, whom we may have statements that were not earlier discoverable under the Reciprocal Discovery
Did you
Act,
hear that?
and I will turn those
But I didn't.
over at the first opportunity.
I didn't hear them rest. Did you hear them rest? He just clearly said they rested, and we didn't get to hear it. Like we earned that, Judge. We earned those words. And did Lafayette make me miss it? So these two witnesses, let's see if I can show them to you. These are the oops, wait, that's not right. Okay, down bottom right hand corner. There's two ladies. They're on real quick. But, all right, here's what... Marcia said she had one more witness that was going to be quick. Where did that witness go? Why didn't we see that witness? And then these two ladies, which I thought the first one was her last witness, they must be defense. I wonder who they are. Anyway, the whole trial starts tomorrow, guys. Starting tomorrow, everything changes. I can't wait. Oh man, it took us so long to get here. Now it's finally here. You know? We finally made it to the fireworks show. July and October. Oh man. All right. Well guys, try to have a good day. The link is in the description if you ever wanted to look ahead. Oh, I gotta find Furman now. I gotta get on my game and record that and bleep everything out. I need to get working on that so we're ready when that piece happens. It's not happening on my stream, that's for sure. Alright. Lafayette. Alright guys, I will talk to you soon. I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I'll see you very soon. No, bye.